Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and a lot of you know about some of the recent hirings at HBCUs, particularly in the field of football. One is Norfolk State with Michael Vick, and also Deshaun Jackson was just hired at Delaware State. And Jeff Lightsy Jr., my guest for today, who's one of the best journalists in the country, one of the most noted journalists, particularly in the area of HBCUs, who actually broke the story about Deshaun Jackson being hired, is joining us today. I want to say, what's up, Jeff? How you doing, man?
Hey, thank you so much, Doc. I'm doing all right. That Deshaun Jackson thing was actually pretty crazy to see, your name and bylines on ESPN and Bleacher Report and basically any major network that wanted to pick up the story had to put me on their thing, whether they wanted to or not, because I was the first person to come out with it. And it's all just really based on relationships that I had. So, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity as always.
Yeah, well, that's very cool, man. And I think it's something where I'm not surprised at all because I know how diligent you are and how good you are. You're an outstanding journalist. You went to a great journalistic institution, Western Kentucky University, and I think there's more to come. So anyway, I want to ask everybody in here in the chat. Let me know if you can hear us. Give me a yes, you can hear us. Also, don't forget that this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify, look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. You can also find us on Spotify. So let's just hop right into it. All right. So recently, and I want everybody to kind of know this, there have been controversies surrounding the hiring of former athletes at HBCUs. There are lots of people, and I put some stuff on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance, where there was a comment from some people where basically they felt that a lot of these former athletes, these celebrities, that they kind of use the HBCUs a little bit. They don't really want the job. They only take the job because they can't get another job. And they use the schools until they become noticeable to white people, and then they go take another job at another institution. So, Jeff, I want to start off there with you. Have you heard this controversy, and did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have heard this controversy. It really, I first heard it obviously when Deion went to Colorado. That's when it kind of came about. And now with these new hires, at first, of course, Ed Reed 2 years ago was on the by Bethune-Cookman, and that went south. He kind of cursed out the administration on Instagram Live, and they kind of pulled, and he hadn't signed his contract yet. So they kind of pulled the rug from up under him, like, hey, we can't have that at our institution, and went in a different direction. Now, it hasn't worked in that different direction in those 2 years. And some people are like, maybe we should spend. Now you have this case with Michael Vick, who is from the 757, who is from Newport News, Virginia, who is from the same area that Norfolk State.
Oh, it looks
And
like
then, of course, you have Deshaun Jackson, who is from Southern California, Compton, Long Beach, from that area. And he's going to be the head coach at Delaware State University. These are two people who are following the mold of Deion Sanders. The path that he laid out that if you go there to these black colleges, you have success at these black colleges, you will then be able, because of who you are, not necessarily be who the black colleges are, but who you are, you will be able to parlay that success level, like he has been able to parlay Jackson State into Colorado, and then Colorado into a Heisman Trophy winner and a son who could potentially be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. And I think that is appealing to a lot of people. I think that's appealing.
Hey, everybody. Looks like Jeff is having some connection difficulties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Jeff back in, and I'm going to give him a chance to come in. Hey, Jeff, I don't know if you can hear me backstage, but you kind of kept going out in and out a little bit. And maybe I'll give you a chance to fix your Wi-Fi and just kind of give me a thumbs up when you feel like it's fixed. Maybe on a different signal, you might be able to come through. But until Jeff comes back, and as you know, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsy Jr., who is one of the most noted HBCU reporters in the country. We were talking about Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson getting hired by the HBCUs. And actually, as I move on, can y'all hear me? Give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me clearly and if I'm coming through okay, because the connection could be my issue. So let me just not assume that it's just his connection. Can you guys hear me okay? Give me a quick yes. That way I know I can move on. Okay, thank you, Tony. All right, so here's the deal. So basically Michael Vick gets this job, And I saw a brother, I put it on my Instagram. I put his comment on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance. And I thought it was a really compelling point. He basically said this. It's really a regular brother that's making a comment, but he says, when y'all were top prospects, you never wanted to go to an HBCU. During your careers, you never donated to HBCUs. But as soon as your career is over and no one is talking about you, y'all go to an HBCU to coach for a year or two. How about have some resources for HBCUs ready? So first off, let me ask you this. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Do you feel that the person has a point? Do you feel that he has a point that he's basically saying, look, when you were big, when everybody wanted you, you ignored black schools. You didn't want anything to do with an HBCU when the white people were paying attention to you. And then when they didn't pay attention to you, you wanted to come to an HBCU. But it's not because you wanted to connect and be a part of the growth of the institution. You're only there because you want to do a couple of years until white folks want you again. And then also, you're coming with no resources. You're not coming with a check. You're not coming with some sort of something that's going to help sustain these institutions. So in a way, it's almost like a guy somebody talking about a guy who doesn't love a woman when he can have a different woman. Like when the girl he wants is available, he's at her house. He's buying her nice stuff. He's taking her out for champagne and caviar. And then when she dumps him, he shows up at your house. Not. And he doesn't show up because he's there and he says, "Oh, I've recognized the error of my ways. I wanna be a good man for you long term. I want to marry you and have kids with you." No, he's not there. He's like, I'm just gonna be here until the other chick says she wants me back. Do y'all get the analogy? Let me know if you get the analogy. And then on top of that, he comes back in and he ain't bringing no resources. He's just coming in for the good stuff and ain't bringing nothing that's gonna help with the long term sustainability of that household. Do you think that that's right? Do you think that's right? And I'm probably showing my bias because I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. Again, it's nothing wrong with a former athlete going to an HBCU. Nothing wrong at all. But the question would be, why did you put black people on a lower tier from white people? Like, why do you consider HBCUs to be the G League of the NFL? Why, or of even college football? Right? I'm looking at the HBCUs like, okay, this is the training ground. This is like when I had that job in high school and I worked at Wendy's until I got old enough to get a real job. Wendy's was never a place I planned to retire. Wendy's was never a place I planned to be for 30 or 40 years. Wendy's was never a place where I wanted to be regional manager. Wendy's was a place where I was like, look, I'm gonna make a couple dollars until I go to college and get a real job. I think there's something to that point. And some people might step in and say, don't be hating. You just don't be hating. Just know that if you come in with a don't be hating kind of argument, that shows me that you're not even processing the information. That shows me that you are into whatever's cool. You are into whatever Negro white folks put on TV. You think that celebrities are people to be worshiped, not people to be scrutinized. So at the end of the day, if that's your only response, I think I saw one person in the chat say, don't you just be hating. Yeah, whatever, man. Like the idea that you get caught up in what's cool so much that you don't care about your own institutions is actually kind of sad and pathetic. I think it's an area of growth. I don't think that white folks would accept the same treatment, but for some reason, there are black people who think we should take whatever scraps we can get. Now, I think I got the great Jeff Lightsy Jr. back in the building. Let me pull him back up here. Jeff, he's back.
Yeah, what's going on? Hopefully, is everything good? Hopefully
yeah, man. You got to get rid of that Boost Mobile.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. I had to switch it up. I had to come over to the iPad. But what I was getting at was, like I said, they watched the Deion Sanders model, right? And everyone, I say everyone, I'm saying these high-level, high-profile former NFL athletes, former Pro Bowl athletes, $100 million athletes, are seeing what Deion Sanders was able to do at Jackson State and parlay that into Colorado, and therefore a son who may be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And another player, Travis Hunter, will be top 3 and who just won the Heisman and every other award that you can win. And they're watching that and they're saying, man, if I want to coach, why wouldn't I start at the same stomping grounds, at the same type of level, at the same opportunity that Deion started at? Because these places will give me an opportunity. And for each other, it's a win-win. In their eyes, it's like, hey, for example, Deshaun Jackson is going to he's going to Delaware State University. Delaware State University hasn't had a winning season in 12 years. They haven't had a winning season like where they won more games than they lost in over a decade, 12 years. The last 2 years, they've won a combined. In 2 years, Doc, they play 12 games a year. In 2 years, they've won 2 games. 2 games total. That's where he's going. And so think about this. They have him out here promoting season tickets. This is a 6 games at home, 6 home games. That's what season tickets are. He's promoting them for $25. Total. $25 total.
Wait,
I might just buy them.
Wait. $25 will get me a ticket for every game for the whole season?
Every home game at Delaware State. $25.
Wow, man.
But that's where they're at, though. Like, that's where they're coming from. And think about and getting a guy like Deshaun Jackson, however you feel about him, will boost those things. Me, myself, I might just buy the season tickets just because. They're only $25. I spend $25 doing BS, like stuff that don't matter. I spend $25 at a restaurant at McDonald's, right? For my family, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I might just do that just to help him out. One combo meal's $10. You know what I'm saying? If I get 2, it's 20. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the part where it's helping a Delaware State to be able to get a Deshaun Jackson. It's bringing more notoriety. It's bringing more eyeballs. He's someone who will be able to fundraise unlike they ever been able to fundraise before. Deshaun Jackson, of course, played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is about an hour and a half away from Dover, Delaware. It's not far. So his connections from the time that he spent 8 years in Philadelphia, from the times he was able to spend in Philadelphia, from the people that he was able to meet while he was there, and being a Pro Bowl player, the ownership groups, all of those things, those resources, those people that he were able to pour into, they should then in turn be able to help him out now the same way the people that Deion poured into was able to help him when he was at Jackson State. And the same can be said with Michael Vick at Norfolk State. These are the things, these are the opportunities. Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, Eddie George at Tennessee State, Deion Sanders when he was at Jackson. These are the opportunities and things that just a regular coach wouldn't have access to because of who they are. It's not a knock to regular coaches, right? Like, I'm not a all-world athlete, so I'd be a regular guy in my field in journalism or whatever. That's the same with these guys. I have come to terms with what Deion did. Wasn't crazy about the way he left, but I understood why he left. My thing is, it's not about what you do, it's how you do it. Meaning, if you're here just to get an opportunity somewhere else, I understand that, right? Like when somebody comes and triples your salary or whatever the case may be, people move jobs to jobs all the time. My thing is, it's how you leave if you decide that that's what you want to do. Because someone like, and that may not be the case for everyone. Eddie George, I don't think is going to leave, right? Like, I think he was living in Nashville, acting in Broadway plays, doing movies, and I think he was in the finance field when he was doing some finance work for Tennessee State University, and their president, Dr. Glenda Glover, came to him and was like, "Hey, our football team sucks. We need a coach. Do you want to come coach?" And he's like, "I never wanted to coach before, but presented the opportunity, I might want to be into it." Then he gets into it, and they just won their conference. They just won the OVC. Deion Sanders, of course, his whole plot was to coach his son in college. Like, that was the whole deal behind him. He wanted to coach Shedeur in college, and he interviewed for Arkansas. He interviewed for Florida State. He interviewed for the bigger jobs, and they were just like, "Man, we love you." And Arkansas, he killed the interview. He's Deion. He's gonna kill it. But they're like, "Bro, you never coached before. Like, this is high level college football. Like, our facilities, our infrastructure, the basis of our school, and a lot of its budgets are based on athletics. And you've never coached at a collegiate program. You never even coached at a high school program as a head coach. So turning the keys over to a $80 million business, essentially what Arkansas football was, or $100 million business or whatever, it's a bit much." But Jackson State, on the other hand, was like, "Hey, you know, we see the value in bringing in Deion Sanders," which then also brought in Shiloh and Shedeur, and then eventually led them to bringing in the number 1 player in the country, which is Travis Hunter. So they saw the value there. And to me, it's honestly, someone pointed this out to me, and I think that it's actually true, that honestly, what is taking place with these black coaches coming into coaching at black colleges with no experience coaching, they're professionals, they made a bunch of money playing football, it's almost like what the premises of black colleges were based on. I couldn't go to University of Kentucky, or I couldn't go to University of Mississippi, Alabama, whatever, but I could go to K-State. I could go to Jackson State. I could go to Tuskegee. It's almost like what it was based on, because those universities wouldn't give me an opportunity. Who would? my home base, the black college. And it's like, that is kind of what they were created for. Because would black colleges ever been created if the white universities didn't tell the black folks no? And so it allowed them to like, okay, well, let me do my own thing and let me start a non-traditional thing, right? Like instead of going to Kentucky, Ole Miss, whatever, these places that don't want me, I go to a place, I build it up. And then now we have these, I think it's 107 black HBCUs across the country. And I think that's not a bad thing. Like, now, granted, would I love for all of them to stay and build up the infrastructure that is black college football? Absolutely. But one thing I will say is college athletics itself, because of the portal and NIL, and we can get into the weeds of that if you want to, but it's broken right now. It's not a sustainable model. It's super broken. Kids can leave whenever they want to. Kids are getting paid $1 gazillion, even when they do or don't do anything. So that part of it's kind of messed up. So, well, while that's messed up, if I can have an opportunity, if I'm Delaware State, who's selling season tickets for $25, there's only won 2 games in the last 2 years, or have had a losing season for over a decade straight. And if I can go get a guy like Deshaun Jackson to lead my program, and it's going to instantly bring me millions of dollars, not like hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. The publicity and notoriety from the breaking of the Deshaun Jackson story to Delaware State gave them millions of dollars of free promo before he ever coached a game, before he ever signed a player. I signed up for that 10 out of 10 days, 10 out of 10 times.
Okay. So I definitely hear that, right? And that makes everything you said makes perfect sense. We know that history, right? We know that basically historically white schools wouldn't let us in, so we went to HBCUs because white schools wouldn't let us in, and I appreciate that for sure. One thing that's interesting, and now today it seems like you're also saying that white schools still won't let us in until XYZ occurs, so we go to HBCUs to get what we need until we can get that other opportunity. One of the things that's really interesting to me, though, is in the midst of what you say, black people have the best athletes on the planet, right? We have this $1 trillion asset called the black athlete. Nobody else can give birth to a Michael Jordan other than a black woman. Only black women can give birth to a Shaquille O'Neal. Only black women can give birth to a Deion Sanders. So the athlete is the $1 trillion asset. But for whatever reason, white folks are the ones making the most money from this $1 trillion asset. HBCUs that are full of black people are broke. Their sports teams are not that great. They don't make very much revenue from sports. Big white schools, I don't know, Colorado, let's say, are cracking hundreds of millions of dollars a year off the athletes that were born from black women, right? So black women are the feeder to college football. We are part of the feeder system. And that is our job, and we're happy to be in that subservient role where the bulk of the benefits go to them. We get whatever crumbs they leave. Like if some washed up athlete isn't getting attention anymore, he might go and spend a couple years at an HBCU and help them out a little bit so they can sell their $25 tickets, where Colorado is charging hundreds of dollars for season tickets, right? Because they've got the greatest show on earth right in their institution. Okay. I think that's fundamentally problematic, right? I think that, and the reason I think that's wrong is because I want to do a little experiment. I want you to flip it. I want you to imagine if white people said the same thing. They said, look, Tom Brady, he's a former athlete now. He's got free time on his hands. He wants to coach at Howard. Howard University won't have him. So we're going to take him at Alabama for a couple years so he can get good enough for Howard University to eventually give him an opportunity. Do you understand? Do you guys understand how ridiculous that sounds? How crazy that was? That's not even a real universe. But yet when you talk about a black athlete, somebody as great as a Michael Vick or Deion Sanders, Deion, maybe some would argue he didn't do everything Tom Brady did, but he's right up there with Tom, right up there. Best to ever play his position for sure. Deion had to kind of go that route. He had to look at his own community as a backup option or as a stepping stone to get the golden ticket, which is to be up there, with the white folks. And we know what it is. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. And it creates this really distinct and problematic disadvantage for the black community because it makes the white man almost like your economic god. Like he's like, yeah, whatever you want to do until we decide we want you, you can go do that. But once we want you, we know we got you, right? And that is logical, right? It makes logical sense from an economic standpoint. Like, why would Dion turn down hundreds of millions of dollars if he didn't have that already? But it also speaks to a type of lack of foresight, vision, or value system, because it's almost like a guy saying, yeah, you can date that girl for a while and she'll even be your wife, but the minute I want her, I got her. You know what I mean? Like the minute I want your girl, like I'm only letting your girl, that girl, Travis Hunter, right? Like, poor Travis. I feel so. I don't want to ask. I want to get your opinion on that. But I'll let you date that girl because I got other things to do. I don't want her anymore, so I'm sending her to your house. Y'all do whatever you want. You fall in love and stuff, just like people fell in love with Dion. So Dion's the girl. It's like so the big white universe is sitting here saying, "I got your bitch. Your bitch wants me." But I'm going to send her over to you and you can just have her. And then what you're going to do is do what black people did with you're going to fall in love. You're going to really think that it's real. You're going to Travis Hunter your way all through the situation. And then when I make the phone call, and excuse my French, everybody. I know y'all know I normally don't talk like this, but I got to be honest with you. So as soon as I make the phone call, oh, your girl's coming to my house because I got the money. I can buy your girl, right? I don't care what anybody says. That is as disrespectful as shit. We are the Travis Hunters of college sports. Like we and I hate it. It gets me to the point where it's like, is money, and I'm into money. I'm an expert on money, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, is money the only factor that determines where your loyalty is going to be? Because if that's how you think, then you might as well call yourself a white supremacist, because the white man has all the money. I mean, sure, we got a couple of Negroes with a couple of dollars, but we don't have the money they have. They have like literally 50 times more money than we have. And they can even print the shit. They can print the money. Right. So like, as long as you're only playing the money game and you can't play any game other than the money game, you will lose the game. What say you to that, Jeff? I said a lot, but I want
the in the grand scheme of things, I'm with you, right? Like, I 100% agree with you. The only part that I disagree when it comes to college athletics is it's not just the money, it's also the opportunity. And it's also the chance to be on a grander stage, because it's not like these big old white schools, they have the more money, are just plucking the coaches from the black colleges. Honestly, they're not plucking the coaches from the black colleges, no matter how successful they are, right? Like, if I'm a coach and I'm at my alma mater, Western Kentucky University, and I do really, really well, then a big school comes and plugs me. We had Jeff Brom for a while, and then he did well at WKU, won 2 conference championships, all this stuff. Then guess what Purdue said? Hey, we'll give you $5 million a year. My school wasn't even paying them $1 million a year, right? Like, so that happens in sports. Like, this is the game of sports that we're talking about. So it's not just at the black colleges, because the thing about the black colleges, you can do really well and still not get the white job, at least initially. I give you an example. Willie Simmons was the head coach at FAMU. He won a Celebration Bowl. He had all winning seasons at FAMU. He never won less than 9 games a year, and he could never get, quote unquote, a head coaching job at a bigger school. No matter how successful, he won a game that Dion couldn't win. Dion went to Celebration Bowl twice and never won it. Willie Simmons went and won. Right? When he finally went, he won. And guess what he had to do? He had to actually take a running backs coach job, not a head coach, but an assistant job at Duke after winning the Celebration Bowl. And then from there, he was able to parlay that to the head coach at FIU. But he had to go be a position coach. He had to go essentially take what some would consider a demotion. They got paid more. It's different. He got paid more to take that quote unquote demotion. And then he finally got a head coaching job at a Group of 5 level. So I'm saying all that to say it's not just a black college thing. It's more of this is how the college system of athletics works. Hey, if you do well at a small school, we'll then promote you and get you to the big school, because the big school not just only has money, but they have opportunities. For example, Travis Hunter is the best player in college football, but he's been the best player. He didn't just become the best player this year, but say if Dion stays at Jackson State, Travis Hunter would have still been Travis Hunter. He still would have been just as fast, would have been able to jump just as high, would have been able to catch just as many balls, maybe more, catch just as many interceptions, maybe more, whatever. but he wouldn't have gotten recognized the way that the world would have recognized him, like winning a Heisman Trophy or winning a Biletnikoff or winning a Walter Camp Player of the Year, all those things at Jackson State. Because of the level that they play on, because of the size of the school, because of the competition they play, he would have been devalued. But being at Colorado, it gave him an opportunity to win all of those awards and to go top 3 in the draft. Once again, not saying that's right, but that's just the way college athletics works. FCS versus FBS, once again, getting into the weeds. But those are the things, the opportunity that also presents itself at the schools with the more money, with the more eyeballs, with the better TV contracts. Those are the things that aren't available at an FCS school, which all HBCUs are FCS level, which is football conference championship level, which isn't the biggest level that you can be at, which is FBS. So those are the differences. When it comes to these coaches now getting into coaching, I'm not so sure they knew they wanted to coach. I think some of these guys have been inspired by what Deion's been able to do and understand not just one, they wouldn't be able to get a head coaching job at a P4 school, at a white school, essentially. But they understand also the opportunity that even if they're there just for 1 year, most of them going to be there at least 2 to 3, but even if they're there just 1 year, how they can change and have an impact economically to that area that these schools are located in. Mm-hmm. That is massive. Like for Michael Vick, he's, like I said, he's from Newport News. He Norfolk State, he's all in that area, Norfolk, Virginia, and he understands that being Michael Vick, the brand that is Michael Vick, he could make more money doing something other than coaching Norfolk State. Like he could stay at Fox Sports, or he could do video games or seminars or speeches. Like it man's reformed. He went to prison. Like he did all these things that he could make a whole lot more money doing speeches than coaching at Norfolk State University. But he understands the impact that he is going to make. Norfolk State is going to sell out every single game next season because they have Michael Vick, a hometown hero, as their head coach. They're going to sell out every single game. And what impact that makes economically, not just for the university, but also for the area that he grew up in, and how it's going to be able to inspire the kids that are there, that look just like him, that act just like him, that know where he comes from. That's going to be massive. And the same for Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State, where they're selling $25 to get you into 6 games. That's telling you how massive they need an economic boost from their athletics department.
Okay, well, everybody, I want you to know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Jeff Lightsy Jr. He's one of the best journalists in the country. He actually broke the story of Deshaun Jackson going to Delaware State, and he is really good at what he does. And by the way, you can follow Jeff on Twitter and all platforms at JLightsy7. That's right. Did I get that right, Jeff? Or did
yes.
Change it? Okay. Mm-hmm. At JLightsy7. So I hope you all will go and be a part of what he's doing. He's very devoted to what he does. And also, if you want to get text notifications when I go live on this channel, pull out your phone, text the word Boyce to the phone number 87948. So text Boyce, BOYCE, to the phone number 87948, and I'll send you a text notification when we go live. So we're talking about Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson and these former athletes that are going to HBCUs. And the debate is whether or not, and they've been accused of using HBCUs as a stepping stone to pretty much hold them over until the big rich institutions call them up. And y'all know that rich also in most cases means the big white institutions. And I think that there's a debate to be had about that. And so everything that you say makes a lot of sense in terms of economic impact, Jeff, and things like that. And I can appreciate that, right? You have to work from where you are, and there's no question about that. It reminds me of like a football game, right? I remember one time I received I was really good at kickoffs. I was fast, I was fast enough to be fast, but not fast enough to be super fast. And my coach would tell us, he taught us, when you catch the kickoff, you got to run north to south, go straight up the field. But I'm 11 years old, and I think I can outrun anybody. So, of course, I broke the rule and ended up embarrassing myself. So the ball, so they kicked the ball. I'll never forget. It was a school called Carroll County, and they kicked the ball off, and it hit the ground, and I bent down to pick the ball up. And I looked up, and I swear it looked like there was like a wall of other players from the other team, like just about to pummel me on the 1 yard line. I said, "Oh shit!" So I do exactly the opposite of what my coach said. I didn't go north to south. I went east to west, thinking I could run around this wall of white boys that were ready to take me out. And I almost got around, but I didn't. And they tackled me on the 1 yard line. And I remember going to the sideline. My coach took me out for the entire game, And I remember sitting on the sideline, embarrassed and feeling bad that I'd hurt my team because I watched our quarterback line up the whole team at the 1 yard line, like barely in the end zone. I'm thinking, I did this. It's my fault. I made that mistake. Now, why would I bring this goofy story up other than to reminisce on my worthless football career? I bring it up because when I think about that situation, it's like they did what they had to do, right? They ran the offense from the 1 yard line because they had no other choice. That was the situation they were in. One thing, but the bigger issue is not what do we do next? The bigger issue my coach had, which I agreed with, is why the hell were we on the 1 yard line in the first place? We should have been on the 20, the 25, the 30, whatever. If he had done what he was supposed to do, I could at least got us to the 10 yard line, maybe 15, gave us some space. So when I look at HBCUs and I hear us make logical arguments in terms of why we need to do certain things, right? We have to go through this process because we are so broke that we're broker than the 10 commandments. Like we can't afford toilet paper. We got to sell our season tickets for $25. And
that is crazy, Doc. I don't think you know how crazy that $25 for 6 games. $25. Like you're gonna spend more if you have a family of 3. You're gonna spend more than that at McDonald's.
Yeah,
20, and it's gonna get you 6 football games.
It's
like
$4 per game. Yeah, and where Eddie George is, Tennessee State, right now, they're having significant financial problems.
The land grants on the state of Tennessee, they owe them over $500 million. But that's a whole other thing.
They do. And here's the thing. Here's where I want to get to about this. I think the bigger question is not what do we do to survive the situation that we're in. The bigger question is how in the hell did you get in the situation that you're in?
Yeah.
You're a story.
Well, we know that though. We know that for most of these institutions.
Well, why is that? Tell me why.
Well, I mean, most of these institutions are economically deprived from their own state. Like, yes, they were created by Black folks for Black folks, but they don't want to be with, they don't want to be upkept by the folks in power at the state. Like colleges or state universities, as you worked at a college for a long time, they're funded by the state. They're funded by, but at the state, and they're supposed to be getting grants, like land grants, like Tennessee State's over $500 million in land grants they never received throughout the history of their university's existence, but that the University of Tennessee got, or the University of Tennessee Chattanooga received, or that, any Middle Tennessee State received. Somehow Tennessee State, the one Black college, it got missed out. It missed out, right? Like it got bypassed. Same with Fisk. But they didn't miss out on Belmont. They didn't miss out on Vanderbilt, right? Like they didn't miss their
wait a minute. So you're really saying white people don't love us enough to pay our bills and take care of us as if we're their own? Is that what you're saying? Oh my God. And I thought they were our friends. Are you kidding me? It took us this long. It took us till 2024 to realize that there's no economic mess in the Black community that white folks are really, truly going to be committed to getting us out of. I'm not saying that they don't deserve the money. I would never say that. They deserve $1 trillion as far as I'm concerned. But at some point, you got to realize that Superman ain't coming. Big Daddy ain't going to come write that check. And the question I have is, and I agree with you 100%. Everything you're saying, I don't agree with any of it, right? We are owed this money for sure, and we should ask for it. If they're writing checks, we should be the first one there getting our cut. But the question then becomes, if it's been over 100 and something years and they ain't never wrote the check the way they're supposed to, at what point do you go to Plan B? Because there's money out here. There's ways to make money. There are universities that have substantial alumni bases that donate billions of dollars a year to that school. There are institutions that get hundreds of millions of dollars from their graduates who write big checks. And, like I went to the Milwaukee School of Engineering, a school that most of you haven't even heard about. And there's a big $100 million facility they just built where one alumni who became an entrepreneur wrote a check to build the damn building. So, and then my question would be, and Dr. Claude Anderson has brought this up, and I know you're a fan of his, and I'm gonna let you finish, man. He says HBCUs are still sticking to their traditional mandates, unfortunately, of training Black people to go work for white folks. They're not training Black people to become wealth builders. They're not training them on powernomics principles. They're trained on the graduate and get a job principles. And everybody should not be thinking that way, because what happens is that you can't sustain your institution without government funding, because you don't have enough people in your alumni base that have those, that $100 million net worth where they can write you that $5-10 million check to help you secure that athlete's NIL deal or whatever these people, the donors at University of Texas and other places, what they're doing. Why can't our donors do the same thing? What's broken with our economic model as a community that keeps us in this position of complaining, begging, and taking the scraps? Please go ahead, continue, man.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to...
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's why to kind of bring it back to the athletic part. That's why I'm not mad at these hires, right? Like, these hires are bold, like, because in a lot of ways you're breaking the norm. And think about it. I just told you Delaware State hasn't had a winning season, meaning if they play 11 games, they haven't won at least 6 games in 12 years. 12 years. But what they always do is hire a qualified black coach, right? Like, they hire a guy who's got coaching experience and a lot of times head coaching experience. For example, their last head coach they just had to fire, Lee Hull, had 20 years of coaching experience, in over a decade as a head coach at different colleges across the country. And he won them 2 games in 2 years. 2 games total in 2 years. So it's like, hey, man, what we've been doing hasn't worked, right? Let's break the mold and get us a name, get us a guy that, one, we believe can help us win. Like, that's the most important part. We believe he can help us win, because that's going to change everything if that's able to happen. And 2, even if he loses, even if Deshaun Jackson stinks as a head coach, we know economically we're going to be in a different place than if we would have hired Joe Schmo, who was a lifetime coach. Like, because even if both of these guys stink, right? At least this guy is going to stink and bring me $5 million over the next 2 years, or more than that, potentially. He just got me $5 million in free promo. Like, he just literally got me $1 million in free promo in the last 2 or 3 days because of who he is. And so at least if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with a pile of cash, right? Like, if nothing else, and then I can restart on the next guy, when that opportunity presents itself. Same with Michael Vick. Michael Vick, the promo was even more than that, because he's actually from the 757. His wife went to Hampton. He's from that Newport News, that Virginia area. You talk about, and he's Michael freaking Vick. Now, Deshaun Jackson, a big deal, but Delaware, unless you Joe Biden, I don't know who's from Delaware, right? Like, nobody's from Delaware. And like I said, it's an hour and a half from Philly where he played, but he's from Long Beach. He's from South Central LA. Michael Vick's from Norfolk, like the Norfolk area. His wife went to Hampton, once again in Virginia. Like, that is their area. Those are their people. He could probably drive down the street and go to his grandmama's house, right? From the place that he'll be working. That's totally different, but the same economic impact is going to be felt in both places. And I think, like I said, even if these guys don't pan out, which historically it's showing that this actually does pan out, because once again, Deion, when he went to Jackson State, won 2 SWAC championships and went to the Celebration Bowl, which is the HBCU national championship, twice. And he didn't win, but he went there twice, and they got millions of dollars in free promo and millions of dollars of actual real capital from the sponsorships and endorsements he was able to bring with him. With, once again, at Norfolk State and at Delaware State, it may not be to that level that Deion was able to at Jackson, but it's going to be something similar as far as the economic impact, both on the school and the community, with these 2 guys coming into town.
Interesting. Well, I want everybody to know I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsy Jr., and we are talking about HBCU coaching jobs and whether or not it's okay for prominent athletes to seem to use HBCU, or they've been accused of using HBCUs as a stepping stone to eventually leave and go to big white institutions. And Jeff Lightsy Jr. is a great journalist and a smart brother, and he's B1. And his social media platform is you can find him at JLightsy7. And Jeff, you host a radio show in Louisville, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I do, on 93.9 The Ville. I'm based out of Louisville, so I mostly cover the Louisville Cardinals. But and I do, like, on my YouTube channel, I cover a lot of HBCUs. I still follow Deion in Colorado. And like I said, it's one thing that I want to give you credit on this, Doc, just about just being nice to people, man, and networking and really, like, not being rude. I mean, I've seen you work rooms both at the All Black National Convention and just being out in public and being really, really nice to people. And that will will create opportunities. Really, just not being a douchebag, right? Like just being a cool dude will create opportunities. And with the Deshaun Jackson thing, like I said, he's from Long Beach, and I had a coach. I interviewed some of his players that had come through his program before, and this was like years ago, right? Like over the last 2 to 3 years, I did it. Like did him a solid, right? I don't even know if these guys were any good, but I just did it. Like did him a solid. So when the Deshaun Jackson news comes out, or before it comes out, he hits me up like it's 5 a.m. LA time. It's 8 a.m. I'm up with a half sleep baby, and he's like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know that Deshaun Jackson is going to be next head coach of Delaware State." And I'm like, "What? Like what?" But this guy would have never presented me that information for me to vet out and then officially, find out that it is true if I just went nice to him, right? Like if I just didn't do him a solid, do some of his kids that he works with a solid. And now it ended up being like one of the biggest stories of my career, just kind of getting that out there, all because I was nice to this guy and stayed in touch with him over the course of the last 3 years. And now here we are.
Well, you know what, bro? I would tell you it's the first of many great stories you're gonna break. I know how devoted you are, and you're right. It's and it's a lot of times those little situations, like it reminds me a lot of football. You got to run every play precisely because you never know which play is going to get you 50 yards down the field. And actually, ironically, in my own experience, I'm not a journalist like you. I never have been, don't even pretend to be, but I did used to write a lot for AOL Black Voices back in the day, and I used to work for them for free because I wanted to get exposure and get my stuff out there. Excuse me. And the big one of the biggest, I don't know if you call it a break, but one of the biggest stories I ever kind of broke, if you will, but I didn't really break it like you broke it. I broke it in a way where I got it to a big chunk of the Black community was actually when Steve McNair, the whole thing with his when that thing happened, I'd never forget it because and ironically I'd met Steve that year when I went to Nashville. I just went real quick, took a quick picture of it with him, and it was a Thursday, or I think it was a Friday on a long July 4th weekend, so nobody was coming back into the office till Tuesday. Well, I was the only person who I'm a big nerd, so I work all the time. I work 7 days a week. Because I just love what I do. I've always done that since I was an undergrad, and so I was working every day. And this big thing happens, and the editor's like, "Boyce, nobody else is available to write this story. Can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." So I did it, and there were updates all throughout the weekend. And when I put that first article out, I think I read by a couple million people. The next one got a couple million. All the updates got in the whole weekend for 4 straight days. I had at that time, which was at the time one of the biggest Black websites in the country, all to myself, because there was nobody else writing on the site because everybody else was chilling. And that's just a little note to anybody if you're trying to, whatever you're trying to do, you never know when God is going to open that window for you, and so you got to stay ready. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. In that situation, it was the fact that I was always on it every day anyway that allowed me to even be in a position to make that move. You got to do something different from what everybody else is doing if you want to get something different from what everybody else is getting. But with that said, man, I'll make my last point, and I'm gonna let you get the last word. I'm gonna just say this: everything you said is right. You know the game better than I do. I get it, and I love what you do with the HBCUs. I think HBCUs deserve more attention. But I'm gonna tell you, I have a type of probably stubborn pride, in the sense that I'm tired of us begging to white folks. I hate it. I hate us, especially with it'd be different if we were doing something that white people dominate in, like the production of microchips or something. Like that's their $1 trillion asset. One of our $1 trillion assets is our athletes and also even our music. And every time people wonder why Black wealth is not going up, why we don't have these strong institutions we deserve. Well, every time we get blessed with $1 trillion opportunity, somehow that money always ends up in somebody else's pocket. And I would argue that a lot of it's because we have faulty development of systems that allow us to extract that wealth and contain it and keep it to ourselves. There's something flawed with the model. And I'm going to say one simple thing that I hope everyone will listen to. Everyone, whether you agree with me or disagree with me or not, if you're affiliated with an HBCU, you must make sure that every single graduate understands powernomics. Every single HBCU, any Black college graduate on the planet should understand the core values behind powernomics. Dr. Claude Anderson, his book's called Powernomics, because what that basically says is that when you have institutions and you have valuable resources like your athletes, you contain that. You have to find, you have to develop that, right? So that means, for example, if you develop the institution to build the kind of alumni base that can write the checks that are going to get the job done, that are going to help you, recruit the top athlete in the country, because you need to give them an NIL deal, bring in the top coaches, develop your own distribution networks for the content of the games, right? Like you can do what everyone else does, right? There's something like weird to me about it when you're right. You're 100% right. Why is it that when Travis Hunter is at an HBCU, there's nothing, right? There's not much attention. He's definitely not going to win the Heisman, but but the truth is, like, that's an award that they created. They are the ones who decided the Heisman was even going to be valuable. Why can't we have something similar that we value just as much? I'd rather get an award from my people than get an award from someone else's people. Not to disrespect the Heisman, of course. I respect it. But when you what people have to understand is that when you allow other people to kind of decide what's important and what's not, then you have to knock on their door and beg them to give you a chance to receive whatever that is. So when they have Oscars and Grammys and all this other shit, and we don't control these things, and yet we define ourselves and the quality of our accomplishments based on whether or not they chose to give us an award, you're signing up for slavery. You're signing up for slavery, because you're going to have to bend and fold and bow to the people who say, well, look, boy, if you don't behave the way I want you to behave, I'm going to take that award away from you. I'm going to take your self-esteem, boy. Right. And one of the things that was in my journey as to become an independent Black man is I had to reject and denounce most of that stuff. I rejected it. I don't want it. My wife and I went to visit Harvard University. We're professors, so our version of the Heisman might be getting an important job at Harvard or something, right? And my wife made a little joke. She said, "Boyce, what would you do if Harvard called both of us and wanted us to teach here?" I said, I would say thank you, but no thank you. Like, why would I ever walk away from the most important job in the country to go work with them? You think it's something as simple as money? You think money would make me give up this $1 billion opportunity I have to transform an entire nation? Look at the impact that I've had in my community when it comes to economics. When I went to the Invest Fest, when I went to Invest Fest, it was like I felt like Michael Jackson walking through, everybody stopping me and saying, "Yeah, you were doing this way back in the beginning." But I love them, right? And I'm like, this is what my dream, this is what I wanted. I want us to institutionalize Black wealth at a high level. I could not have done that if I was distracted by trying to impress white folks. Nothing against white people. I don't hate anybody. It's just like, why are we so obsessed with their measure of success and letting them constantly benchmark us, or the double standard? Right, I don't know of a single white coach at Alabama or Georgia or anywhere who is saying, "I'm only here at Georgia for a couple of years so I can hopefully get a chance to go coach in Norfolk State." Right, and the main divider, the main defining factor is how much money the institution has, and as well as the visibility of the platform. But these are things that you build. These are things you build. I mean, the NFL teams that are worth $5-10 billion today, they were once being sold for $200. They had a vision. They said, look, we're raggedy right now, but our grandkids won't be raggedy. Our grandkids are going to be in the $1 billion suite. We're putting in the raggedy work right now because we want to build something for our community. So what raggedy work are we doing? We're good at doing the flashy stuff. We're good at taking the big fancy job at the big white institution that's going to pay us all the money and put us on TV. But who's doing the raggedy work? Those are the people I'm looking for. The ones who are like, look, I'm gonna run this little ugly ass business. We're barely getting by. We ain't making as much money as we want. I passed up a $400,000 a year job, but what I got right here is more important than anything you can offer me out there, because that's where the billionaires come from. So I want to encourage everybody that's sort of on your own path. Stay on that path, man. That's where the real wealth gets created. You cannot get ahead in this world typically by jumping on somebody else's bandwagon. You only get ahead if you do the work. And that's where, and I'm gonna stop talking now because I want to pass the mic back to you before we finish. That's where celebrating and honoring the Diddy's and stuff gets us in trouble, because Diddy was never a true builder. Diddy never really did the raggedy work. Diddy was a flashy guy who got hired by a big company, pretended to be the boss when he actually wasn't, and then had to complain about racism when he lost the opportunity. When think about this, the way things were allegedly taken away from him with his little Ciroc deal, you never hear Jerry Jones talking like that. You don't. Jerry Jones is not like, oh, well, they did this to me because this was it. No, Jerry Jones is not a victim. Jerry Jones is a guy who says, yeah, I did some racist stuff in the 1950s, but you ain't gonna do shit about it. because I own the Cowboys. Like, what you think you get? The best thing the Cowboys could do right now is trade their owner or fire him because he's terrible, right? Because in my opinion, you know more about it than I do.
You're right.
But he's never going to be fired. And when people would say, well, when Kyrie Irving did this, y'all did that. But when Jerry Jones did something worse, y'all didn't do anything. Well, that's because there's a difference between being the owner and being the employee. And there's a difference between having real power versus borrowed power. And I would like to see a world where one thing I'd love to see is institutions that are able to fill the financial voids because they are building the kind of infrastructure that allows them to go make the money that they need in order to be the institution that they need to be without having to be in that horrible twilight zone that you described, where we're mad because the legislators won't do what they're supposed to do. They should do that. They're supposed to do that. But the world doesn't operate based on what's supposed to happen. It operates based on what actually is. So you can complain about having less power. You can complain about losing every game by 5 touchdowns, or you can get a better team and come up with a better strategy and try to win the damn game. I think we can win the game because, remember, we own the athletes. We control the athletes. We give that away, though, because we're short-sighted and we don't make the kinds of investments required for us to actually have the economic power that we need. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm mad that our HBCUs are struggling and looking raggedy. They're too damn good to be looking like beggars and borrowers and bums. They produce some of the greatest African-Americans in the history of this country. And I'll be damned if anybody's going to look at them as some sort of side chick. So anyway, go ahead, brother. You get the last word, man. I said a lot. Thank you for letting me get that out.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I do think that's the thing. What I don't want to jump to is the conclusion that everybody's looking at as this as an opportunity to get somewhere else, because I don't know if that's the case with everything. Like, I don't know if Michael Vick wants to be a coach at Alabama, right? Like, he might just want to be a coach in Norfolk State. Like, I'm not now the likelihood, I don't know, but like that's the thing. Because Eddie George, I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I think he's cool being I don't think he wanted to coach football. They convinced him to coach football, and then he got into it, and he's like, oh, this is actually awesome, right? Like, and now his son's on the team, and obviously he lived in Nashville. He lives in Nashville. He lives in Nashville still, and like he's into building what Tennessee State deserves in his eyes, right? Where I'm not saying that can't be the case for Deshaun Jackson of Delaware State. That can't be the case especially for Michael Vick at Norfolk State in an area where he wanted to be. Because the thing about Michael Vick, I will say this, he turned down another job at a white school, Sacramento State, to go to Norfolk, right? Sacramento State probably could have paid him more money, definitely would have had more money as far as NIL, as far as paying athletes, and potentially could move up to the higher level. And Vick told them no. Vick told them no because he said, I'd much rather be where I'm from, where the people look like me, where the people act like me, to help that community, as opposed to being at a Sacramento State, which probably economically would have made more sense for a guy of Michael Vick's stature coming into a game with no head coaching experience. And so that's the thing. Like, I don't want to just jump and say all of these guys are using this as a stepping stone opportunity like Deion did. That could be the case, but there also could be lifers. And if there's guys that are lifers in this thing at these universities, giving them opportunities and resources they would have never had if they would have hired anybody else. Because that's the thing, these teams have football coaches, so they're going to hire somebody. But if you hire this guy, he's going to bring an opportunity. He's going to bring life. He's going to bring things that just a regular Joe Schmo as a football coach just simply couldn't do. And it's not his fault. It's just because he's not Michael Vick. He's not Deshaun Jackson. He's not Eddie George, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the things that I'm looking forward to. And I don't think this trend stops. I think because of the success of a Deion, because of the success of an Eddie George, you're going to see more of these former professional football players, not because there's been pro football players that come and coach at HBCUs forever, right? Like, Deion's not the first to do that. He's just the most notable, right? Like, he's a pro football Hall of Famer. He's prime time. He's Deion Sanders. So he was just the most notable. And so when Eddie George do it, Eddie George won a Heisman Trophy. Like, there's been other guys that guys might have played 8-10 years in the league, but I can say their name and you don't know them, right? Like, you might not know who Eddie Robinson Jr. is or Bubba McDowell is. But these guys coached at black colleges too. But you know who Michael Vick is, know Deion is, know Eddie George, know Deshaun Jackson. And so there's the difference there. And so I think this trend continues. I think Ed Reed eventually gets a black college job. I think Ray Lewis eventually gets a black college job because they've shown interest. I think Marshall Faulk potentially gets a black college job. And Tyreek Hill has already come out and said he's currently with the Dolphins. Said, now, people didn't like this, but I think he's being truthful. He said, have my HBCU job ready when I'm done, right? Like, make sure it's right. Like, he said it probably tongue in cheek, A lot of people didn't like that, but what's wrong with it? If Alabama A&M tomorrow hires Tyreek Hill, people are going to go bananas because it's going to be a big thing. And I think he's going to go there. And once again, these guys are having success. It'd be different if these guys went there and were garbage. These guys are going there, getting players they wouldn't normally get because of who they are, getting players to play for discounts, because of who they are, because NIL players can get paid. And they're getting paid discounts, little to nothing, going to these black colleges, playing for these coaches and having a lot of success. And I think this trend continues. And I think it will only help black colleges in the long run because you're going to get a couple of guys who end up being lifers and not looking to just advance their career once they go there.
Well, you know what? You made some great points, man. And I look forward to seeing how this evolves over time. It's really interesting to watch. And if you disagree with us, either one of us, then I hope that you understand that this was called a healthy debate. And this is what we should have. We should have more of this. We don't have to agree on everything. In fact, we should not agree on everything because that means we're not fishing out the best ideas. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us. This is Jeff Lightsy Jr. He is. Do you give me the name of your show, man? And it's.
Victor Formation. So Victor Formation Media is what I run. It's on, like I said, on YouTube, on Twitter. My Instagram got hacked, so I got to try to get that back. But, on Twitter, on YouTube, all those things going on. Man, we put out great content pretty much every single day, trying to stay on top of these things. I'm actually working with Sean Jackson's team, right? So I broke the story, reached out to some of the guys. Now we're working to get them, because they're looking to get more exposure. And I'm someone who's been in this game, in this HBCU space for a few years now. And so they're looking to get their name out there and get some players and let people know what they're doing and all the great things that they're doing. So, at JLightsy7 is the name across all platforms. Jeff Lightsy Jr. on YouTube, and you'll find me.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. And I know it's a lot of fun to check out everything that you do. And I want everybody to know that if you like this platform and you want to be notified when I go live on this channel, just pull out your phone, text the word Boyce to the phone number 87948. If you text Boyce to the phone number 87948, you can be notified when we go live. And also my website is boycewatkins.com. You guys know we do finance and economics every single day. We have a class, a millionaire training camp that meets 7 days a week every morning at 10 a.m. And it's free for anybody that wants to learn about wealth from a finance professor. So if you are interested in your economics and building your bank account long-term and short-term, feel free to just go to my website and you can sign up, and I guarantee you it'll change your life. So God bless you guys. It was great to see you, and I hope you have a great day. I'm gonna go watch Colorado play. I see they're actually losing. Did you see that?
Yeah, they're getting busted. Yeah, they're getting busted right now.
yeah. So let's go see how that goes. But they had a great season this year, man. I feel like I had to give it up. The first year was real shaky, but man, they came back tough the second year. Deion executed his plan. His plan was to make either Travis or Shedeur the Heisman winner, and he achieved that. And then I'll be curious to see what happens in the draft. Let me ask you one more question. What do you think of the odds of Deion Sanders being the coach of the Cowboys?
I think they're low. I think Deion enjoys coaching college football. In college, it's more taxing for coaches, but you have more control, right? And I mean, let's be honest. Deion loves being the star of his own show. When you go to Dallas, you're not. Jerry's the star. Jerry's the star. Dak's the star. Like, there's other stars there. Whereas in college, as big as Travis Hunter is, and as big as Shedeur Sanders is, the star of the show is Deion Sanders. And I think he enjoys that a lot. I don't think he would get it.
Well, we'll see how that goes. I personally would love to see him coach the Cowboys. Just see what that looks like. Maybe
I wouldn't be mad at it, but I just don't think he does it.
Yeah, so maybe they do something weird, like find a way to get Travis and Shedeur on the team too. I don't know. I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch. But you are right though. Deion likes to be the star, and I can't knock him. I mean, the man was the best ever at his position. I have one jersey on my wall, and you see which one.
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. I literally bought that at an auction. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the guy as an athlete. I respect his confidence. I respect his values as well. I love what he does with the guys as young men and all that. I was disappointed though when he left Jackson State the way that he did. I think that what got me was like, I was like, well, can't you find another way to make money? Like, can't you find another? You're famous. Like, you got connections. You have people around you. You can make 10.
My thing wasn't even that though, Doc. My thing was, and I'm on record saying all these things. He was kicking dirt on the only place that gave him an opportunity. Like right now, he would never say it directly, but he would have his minions, whether it was his daughter or his Uncle Luke, these different people kind of saying, like, telling lies on Jackson. Like they were literally saying lies about Jackson State, like they were scared for their safety. And that, you know, all these different things that just simply weren't true because of and you know they weren't true because of the actions. If you're so scared to go out at night, why are you hosting parties and making money and making a profit from these people you're supposed to be scared of? Right? Like, think about it. His daughter went on camera and said they were scared for their safety while they were in Jackson. But this is the same daughter that threw nighttime parties and made a profit from these same people she said she was scared of. Like, how does that make sense? And so when I called her out on that, Deion he kind of have a problem with that. He blocked me. He shot me some messages and blocked me. But you know, it is. It's all love. You know, it's all love. But I stand on business, man. It's like, yeah, you can leave. Like, that's okay. It's your prerogative to do whatever you want to do. But let's not lie on these people, the only group of people that gave you that opportunity to come and show your coaching chops when no one else did. Like Colorado could have called you. They were terrible 2 years before you got there. You know, they could have came and got you and they didn't. But Jackson State did. They gave you an opportunity and they gave your family an opportunity. And not only did you profit and gain and that, but your family also profited. You know, your son became a videographer at Jackson State. Your daughter threw nighttime parties and made money in the city of Jackson because that city, that team, those people supported you. And as you walk out the door, you have people kicking dirt on those same people. They gave you an opportunity. I didn't like that. And it's a city that's 90% black. It's a black city in America. And so it's a microcosm of how a lot of black people think about other black folks. It's like, it's not good enough. And that's the problem that I had.
Man, I couldn't have said it better, man. I think it's a great point. And I think that what people are not used to, and the reason I like your conversation is because you have the nuance of saying, I'm a fan of Deion. I wish him well. Yeah, absolutely. I respect him. But this particular thing, this right here, I'm not with that. And this is something I want everybody to take note of. Stop being groupies. Stop being just unconditional fans of celebrities where you are just co-signing every single thing they do. Some of these celebrities do stupid stuff. Not Deion. I don't think Deion's just a dumb guy. But you got some goofball, dumb celebrities out here. And you've got people where the minute you call someone, the minute you say, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm a fan of you, but that over here, I don't like that. And next thing you know, you get people, you just be hating. And that's the worst response in the world, because that shows me, I'm like, well, you don't be thinking. You know, like you need to learn how to think, man. You do not, following the crowd is literally, especially for black males, if you ever want to be a loser for life, then just be a punk who follows the crowd. Just be the dumbass guy who just co-signs on anything a popular person does. You will be in a ditch, because some of the celebrities, not Deion, we're putting him to the side now. Some of these celebrities are absolute degenerates. You know, if you go back 15 years and I didn't like what Diddy was doing 15 years ago when he was the most popular man in America. And it's just everything that's happening now. It's just coming out, but everybody knew. But some of y'all just went along with it because you're like, well, he's hip and he's cool and everybody likes him, so I like him too. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. Be a thinker. Be a leader, man. It's critical. It's critical. But anyway, enough of that. I'm done. Thank you, man. It was great to see you, bro. We got to do this more often, man. So
absolutely,
hit me up anytime, man. You want to do something? Like I love having you in. And everybody go follow Jeff. Please go follow Jeff. Jeff, he has a great platform, and he's one of us. He's 100% B1. And he's somebody that is doing excellent work. And so we gotta back up our own. So God bless you, man. It's great to see you, brother.
Thank you as always, Dr. Boyce. And you know I'm praying for you and your family as always.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, my mother's in heaven and she is with me forever. And she tells me every day, don't be getting caught at no Diddy party. So I'm gonna listen to mom. All right, so you have a good night and you take it easy, brother. Good to see you, man. All right.
Yes, sir.